I used to send out like 3 to 5 page letters to like local business owners, and they were ridiculous. And the cart was so far beyond the horse, it wasn't even funny. But you fake it till you make it, type of thing.
Ed, thanks so much for coming on, dude. I'm really looking forward to this. Like I said, we are focusing on the home services space and the M&A space, and you are a connoisseur of both. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise, happy to be here.
So yeah, I like to do like a past, present, future format. So really quick, tell us a little bit about maybe how you got into the agency space and how you came about to be, kind of a, pretty sizable player in the home services marketing space, particularly,
Sure.
Google Ads and what you're doing now.
Okay. My name's Ed Stapleton. I own ClickSkeek with a partner. We started in 2015 and it is now 2024. So getting close to our 10 years in business, which is pretty wild to think about. How did we get started? Back in 2014, I was doing, actually 2012 to 14, I was doing marketing consulting, mostly offline, and then shifted towards online. And I was buying leads from a guy that was spamming people's contact forms. That was my who ended up being my partner, Rob. We had a client, I had an SEO client that wanted me to manage his Google ad campaigns. I didn't think Google ads worked. I thought it was just a mess and blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'll take a look at it. So he took a look at it. I ended up white labeling his work. Within 6 months, I think we had 2 or 3x the business, and I was floored. I always knew I loved the front end of business. I love talking to people. I love talking business. I don't like fulfillment. I said it. I don't like that side of it, and he loves it. He would rather be in the corner in his basement doing his thing, never having to talk to anyone besides his family. And we hit it off. We've been together ever since 2015 to present. So early on, we worked primarily on white label PPC for other agencies. That was our book of business for a really long time. And because of that, we got exposure to any niche you could possibly think of, from foundation repair and crime scene cleanup to roofing, HVAC, DUI. I mean, literally pick any local service niche, and we've been in it.
Ed's the king of niches. Anytime I want to hear about some great niches that no one's ever heard of, I always ask Ed.
Yeah. If you ask me anything about a niche, there's a good chance I have some knowledge on it. Just because we've been in it so long and built so many campaigns that we just have exposure. 2018 is when we started YouTube, and that was originally me being sick of answering the same questions over and over again. So it was helping me just document answers to make our sales process a little easier. We started doing Google Ads tutorials, started doing case studies. Next thing you know, we started getting leads for retail customers through YouTube and some other sources. We shifted away from white label to primarily retail side of the business, which is probably now like 95% retail, 5% white label today. And as of today, we do Google ads, we do Facebook ads, and we now offer websites as a monthly service. So websites, CRM, missed call, text back, reputation management, all packaged together, meant for that Main Street business that's newer on in their journey, that doesn't want to spend that $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 for a website. We sell it to them as a monthly solution to get them off the ground and running. So that's kind of the ramp up of the story.
Yeah, the quick version.
Yep.
It's a lot of ups and downs in the middle there. You have this agency. I wanted to talk maybe a little bit about your business M&A experience, because you've been looking at doing this, and you've done some stuff in the past for a while now. Talk a little bit maybe about the getting into that, and because I know you've done businesses, other ones before. Like I said, you're the king of the niches. Tell me a little bit about on that journey too, so we can kind of get the two in tandem.
I have been looking for an agency acquisition for a long time, but we have a very particular model, and I just couldn't find something exactly that I was looking for. I was looking at Facebook for a while, was looking at SEO, was looking at web design. We ended up going down the rabbit hole of building out our own website division because we just couldn't nail exactly what it is that we were looking for. We have the lead sources. We're good at generating the leads, and we wanted to plug a service in the back end to just get more customer value out of it. But we just couldn't find the match or the right fit of what we were looking for. So we ended up starting it from scratch, which I guess is like the antithesis of the M&A community, doing it from scratch. I have a consulting for equity deal that I've done in the CPR training space that's growing very nicely. That was something that we came into added in services and some structure and some coaching and consulting
Hmm.
to help that business ramp up, and that's doing really nicely. I'm open to more of those, but I just, as of like maybe last week, decided that I really need to focus on the opportunity within my agency right now because
Hmm.
we're staring at something I think could be pretty significant, and want to chase down a goal and just give this a good 6 months to see where it shakes out. But I really believe we have something special built here,
Hmm.
and I'm going to focus on that. So I've got to put a pause to my acquisition efforts for at least 6 months and see where this shakes out first.
That's smart. Yeah, before it's working so well that you decide to try something else, right? That's always the
Oh
entrepreneurial
yeah,
faux pas.
exactly. We'd gotten really systemized and kind of worked myself out of the business, and I thought it would kind of stay at that mark, and it had. But we kind of stumbled across this different opportunity where I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right, this opportunity compared to buying another company, and I'm just like, I already have this asset. Why not just sprint at this and see what happens? Give it a
Hmm.
quarter or two of a full on sprint and see what we can produce. We got some pretty lofty goals for it,
Hmm.
but if we hit it, it'll be significantly more profitable than the PPC management side of things. So I'm excited to chase it down and see what shakes out.
Let's stay on there a little bit. So maybe I know you work with a lot of different niches, but what do you see working the best today for some of these home services niches? Jaron and I are looking in the HVAC, plumbing, and electrical space, but even roofing or some of the stuff close. What do you see working best for them today?
Yeah, it's a good thing you said niche by niche, because you literally have to go niche by niche and determine whether or not Google Ads is a good fit for that niche
Hmm.
nowadays. It's gotten so expensive over the last, I want to say 18 months, but really it's like the last 36 months.
Hmm.
Roofing, as an example, roofing clicks used to be like single digits back
Hmm.
3, 4, 5 years ago. It was easy. Now it's gotten super competitive. HVAC's always been in that more expensive realm, but roofing has climbed up into there. I would take a step back, and I'd need more context as to where that business is currently at.
Hmm.
Understand where their flow of customers coming from. Are they doing any database marketing, any referral marketing? I would need to get a good sense of whether or not Google Ads is a good fit for them, rather than just spewing that they should be on it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they don't have market appropriate budgets to really even enter the arena of
Mm.
Google Ads. And HVAC, you realistically need probably like $4,000 a month to really enter the playing field nowadays.
Wow. Hmm.
Because quick costs have gotten so high that
If you're
if you
not
don't.
willing to spend that, it's not even worth it.
Right. So HVAC's one where you could pull out significant transaction sizes through an installation, but
Right.
something like plumbing, where there maybe isn't that large of a job size,
Hmm.
but it's the recurring business. You'd really have to do the math and sit down and figure out, is this person going to get enough lead flow to get enough gross revenue to make this make sense for them and get them
Hmm.
that velocity. So you really just have to do some napkin math to make sure it makes sense for that niche. Yeah. So that's why I want to know what other lead sources do they have? How else are they getting business? Is this a play where we're just getting their trucks moving and getting their guys paid? And
Hmm.
this is kind of a break even method, or is this their only thing that they've got? So just give me more context, and then I can kind of layer in based on what I think they need.
Gotcha. So yeah, so let's just do a fun little exercise. Say someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I need to get some leads." What's the process that you would walk through of like, all right, here, determine this, determine that. Where your leads coming from? What is that? From say someone's listening to this and they want to start thinking about how to do this for themselves. Where do they start, or where would you point them to?
Yeah, just like you like walk into like a doctor's office and say I need some pain
Hmm.
medication, or
Hmm.
I need some cholesterol medication. The doctor's going to ask questions and they want context, so they don't
Hmm.
immediately jump right to that question. They want to take a step back and walk through. So you take out your checkboard or your
Hmm.
clipboard and you start asking some questions. So I want to know how many trucks they've got, how many techs they've got. I want to hear about monthly revenue. I want to hear about what other marketing channels that they have. I just want to get a bigger picture
Hmm.
rather than just jamming down the solution. When you're what is the saying? When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right.
Kind of have
Yeah.
to you kind of have to step back and take the closed sale out of the equation and do what's best for the customer. Just because Google Ads could work doesn't mean it should work,
Hmm.
or that it's the best fit for that particular client. Um, so take a step back, get a lay of the land, see what they're currently doing, see what's working, what's not working, and see if it's a good solution for them. Sometimes they don't have the budget for Google Ads, but Facebook Ads is a better play for them. Or let's say they've got a sales team, maybe canvassing and doing door knocking is a better approach. It really just depends.
Mhm.
I believe that you need to have that consultative approach and not just spew and
Mhm.
sell it because that's the only thing you have in the quiver. Sometimes just giving them that consultation and that advice is worth way more than the service you have to provide because it's not a good fit for them.
Right. Yeah, and it saves both you guys in the long run, right?
Yep,
So
exactly.
then, so yeah, so maybe the other thing, I guess, staying on these channels is what kind of things do you look at to decide what is appropriate for them? Is it, like for example, I always look at, Facebook versus Google as like a needs versus a want based sale. Google
Mhm.
is the master for the needs based sale. You need your plumbing fixed, plumbers near me, you're going to win every time.
Yep.
Whereas if you're doing Facebook ads, if someone doesn't need that, you can advertise it all you want. They're only going to call when they need it. How do you look at each one, even direct mail, which I know you're a huge fan of, as well as like door knocking? How do you kind of place each of those?
That's a good question. Well, certainly what you just said, the needs versus wants, and we go niche by
Hmm.
niche. Like we wouldn't run Facebook ads in something like towing, but we might in something like junk car. So selling, cash for junk cars. That would be
Yeah.
an example of a niche within a niche. It's a niche that a lot of tow operators actually are in as well. HVAC, we do well on Facebook for HVAC. So there is that mix. Like yes, they know they need it, but it's also one of those decisions that they know they need it, they had it fixed, but they know it's coming down the pipe. They need it replaced at some point, and they kind of have some
Hmm.
band-aids on it right now. So you can still get in front of those people.
You gotta
Uh,
push them over the edge, I guess. So it's like
yep,
to make them want it, or maybe just to push them just over the edge.
yep. And then I
Mhm.
think I'm also a big believer in the old adage that 3% of a market's buying at any given time.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that's a Dan Kennedy line, or I don't know where that came from or where I first
I
heard it
think
from.
so. Yeah.
Dan Kennedy or Jay Abraham, one of them, and it's
Hmm.
that 3% is always rotating every single month.
Yeah.
So if you stay in front of them, I think it's a
And
good move.
what's the other? For people listening, what are the other ones? There's the buying now. There's like
Yep.
about to buy. What's that breakdown? Do you
I think the
remember?
next one is like 5 to 15% are thinking about it
Yeah.
or in that, potential realm, probably
Hmm.
90 days out. So if one's in a 30-day window, other's in like a 90-day window.
Yeah.
So a decent portion of a market's always buying something at any given time.
Yeah. Or open to buying.
Yep. Yeah,
You could
exactly.
be suggestible. We could call it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Cool. So that's maybe the different channels. What about so now you're launching this website, the missed call text back and all that. Tell me a little bit more, maybe the internal marketing that is working for your clients,
What do you mean?
like the website, the CRM. Sending out text messages or sending out emails to your current customers. Say
Yep.
you're an HVAC company and you have a list of customers you worked for the last 10 years,
Yep.
and now you're sending them messages or you're getting your website in place. Google reviews with
Yep.
your reputation management. Talk to me a little bit maybe about that side of things.
So we launched a service. It's websites is a monthly service, and then we bolted on a bunch of different software services into that we
Hmm.
felt kind of piecemealed the needs of the business. A lot of our guys are solo operators, the proverbial truck on a truck. I don't mean to say that in a mean way. It just is what it is.
Hmm.
Just like the agency space, most agencies are solo operators.
Yeah.
They're selling the work and they're doing all the work. So being that they're the solo operator on the van detailing or selling the roofing job and then up on the roof, project management and banging the hammer, they tend to miss phone calls. So one of the features that we have built in is missed call text back. So if a missed call does happen, there's a feature that allows pre-written text to go out to a potential lead that you may have missed because of the missed phone
Hmm.
call to facilitate a conversation automatically behind the scenes without you having to do anything. Some other features we have built in after a job closes out. Text and emails can be sent out to automate the review generation process to get more Google reviews or Facebook reviews or Yelp reviews, whatever you want more of, wherever your
Hmm.
best customers come from. And anything below a 4-star review can actually get kicked back to support to fix a service issue. Because if it's below 4, you've got some issues that need to get sorted,
Hmm.
and then they only push for the 4 and 5 stars. Next thing we give guys is a CRM, somewhere to manage their lead flow. A
Hmm.
lot of businesses are repeat purchasing, and they're not keeping track of their already existing customers, and they're always shooting
Hmm.
for more leads. So there's always an opportunity to retail that land to get more from the people that already know, like, and trust you and have done
Hmm.
business with you. Problem is if you don't follow up with them, they're likely not to follow up with you, and they start
Right.
looking elsewhere. So we've got some automations built in place to help you nurture those relationships over the long haul. An example of that might be a junk removal business that deals with property management companies or real estate investors that need cleanouts quarterly or once per month. Imagine never talking to that customer again versus texting them once a quarter, once a month, sending them an
Hmm.
email, all through automations that just remind them that they're ready to do work whenever they are, or offering them specials or whatever that might be. And that's the bulk of what we do from a customer, helping our customers facilitate better relationships with their customers. But in terms of what you can do, we don't offer these as services, but you could literally do anything. I'm a huge fan of referral programs. I'm a huge fan of thank you gifts. I'm a huge fan of thank you notes.
Hmm.
Direct mail in general, I think, is awesome. I'm
Yeah, that's
excited.
where we'll hit next.
I was just going to say, I'm excited for Forest Direct mail to hit pretty soon. So, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, let's jump into that because I know you're a huge direct mail proponent,
Yep.
which I love because you run an agency and a huge direct mail proponent. So let's jump into that. I guess not just that, but maybe even from the M&A space as well, because I know you've done some outreach to people to buy their business and use
Yep.
direct mail a lot, and we base pretty much all of our email outreach and mail outreach off of what you've given us.
Awesome. I've been using direct mail in one shape or another since like 2010. And I first learned about it through Jay Abram and Dan Kennedy. And
Hmm.
I used to send out like 3 to 5 page letters to like local business owners, and they were
Yeah.
ridiculous. And the cart was so far beyond the horse, it wasn't even funny, but you fake it till you make it type of
Did
thing.
did
Right.
anyone ever write back?
I did. Yeah. I got customers from it. I look back at it now and I'm just like, I cringe at what I could have or did send.
Yeah.
But it works.
Mhm.
Chapter one, yeah.
And but yeah, so I have over in that room right over there, I have 50 boxes that are going to be going out this weekend. Um, I'm mailing to 50. Have you guys ever heard of the concept of the Dream 100 from Chet Holmes?
Yeah. Ultimate sales machine.
Yep. So I'm running
Hmm.
the Dream 100 playbook to influencers within a niche that we really want to crack into. We're
Mm.
paying 30% recurring commissions in that niche, and I really want to crack it open because I think we could have some explosive growth in there. So I'm sending them very large, ridiculous direct mail that's going
Hmm.
out in the box size was the foam board size was an 18 by 24, and the boxes are, I think, 26 by 20 by 4. So like
Yeah.
pretty significant. It's going to cost me
Yeah.
like $20 per box to send these out.
Wow. What was the book that you had me read from that guy who does the cartoons?
Yeah. How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, Stu Heineke.
Yeah, that's
Excellent
right.
book.
Yeah,
That
that
book
was a
is
great one.
awesome. So
Mhm. So
this
yeah,
is
it looks like you're doing
that
a little bit of
playbook.
that. Hmm.
Yep. I'm using that exact playbook here. I'm sending out niche specific cartoons as kind of like
Hmm.
a memento that they can keep in their office. They're pretty funny for that niche. And then in there will be a little letter, and then I'll be following up with phone calls behind it as a way to get my foot in the door and crack through.
Hmm.
Would spending $50 per mailing work if my job size was $1,000? Probably not. If I was 50% profit, maybe. But if your gross profit was probably, or your net profit was 15%, probably not. You kind of have to understand your numbers, understand your gross profit, understand your net profit, understand the value of a customer, understand if your customer refers 2 or 3 more customers, then they're really worth 3,000 or whatever that
Hmm.
number is. Just understand that piece. So I bring that up because there's a giant pile of boxes right there that I'm looking at. So yeah, I love direct mail. Been mailing it for a long time. I've been mailing it. Any niche that I walk into, we mail for consulting, for equity stuff, for acquisition stuff. It plays really well. Just know your numbers and then work backwards. On the acquisition stuff, it works well because the numbers are really large. If
Hmm.
your transaction sizes are smaller, test out smaller. When I say smaller, test 100 to 500 pieces and see if it works for your niche, and then just work backwards into a number.
Hmm.
But like what you're doing for your business, I don't know if you want to get into specifics, but I like
Sure.
it. It's
Hmm.
a longer term relational play to build up route density within a
Hmm.
neighborhood. and it's just going to build up your brand in that neighborhood. So if you've got budget allocation for it, keep mailing that market over and over and over and over. And then you're going to be in that neighborhood, and they're going to see you in the grocery store, and it's just going to build up affinity in that market. And there's something about mailing someone or cold calling somebody, or I don't want to say emailing, because that could get a little annoying, but showing up consistently, and the idea of frequency breeds not affinity. What's the word? Like
Familiarity.
What is it? Familiarity. Yeah. And it's just like they just start to know you because you've been trying for so long. There's something about it where it works.
Yeah.
That I'm a fan.
I feel like direct mail is even a step above that. It's almost a little more intimate, that it's like a physical thing there in their hand, and like ostensibly like you would have written it and like signed your name, and it feels like it came straight from you. Rather, everyone knows email blasts can go out to 100,000 people at a time.
Yes.
So,
and these boxes, as an example, are ridiculous. It's like, who is this maniac sending this stuff? And like when you call, it's an easy conversation. Hey, I'm the guy that sent that large package with the large 2 foot by 2 foot cartoon in it. Like it's easy to get your foot in the door to have that conversation. So that Stu Heineke stuff actually works really well. I love that. Just make sure it makes sense for your niche and the numbers that you're looking for.
Yeah, I always like that a lot, because you really are, upping the ante. So like I look at a lot of marketing efforts as like an ante. An email is a small ante, right? It doesn't really cost you anything. Cold calls a little bit more because it's your time. But like you get up to like bigger ones like that, like you're spending $50 to get in front of them. To them, it shows that it's really important that you're willing to invest that to get in touch with them. Right? So you're really taking that up a notch.
Yep, I agree.
I really love that approach.
I'll tell you a story. This one's ridiculous. I'm looking over here. I have a big frame. We were sending I don't know the dimensions, maybe 2.5 by 4 foot glass frames to lawyers back in 2018 with these big lawyer cartoons in it. We were charging enough where it made sense. I wasn't getting a fast enough return on how much effort I was putting in to mail these things. I'd go to the post office and have to fill up at the time this is 2000. This is 2016, so still in Jersey. I'd have a little Honda Civic, and I'd have to make multiple trips because I had so many boxes in the back of this truck or the back of this car that was ridiculous. So the amount of effort there, I just couldn't make it make sense to keep doing it. But yeah, I mean, we got clients because they're like, "Who's this maniac that just sent me a framed glass cartoon?" So it always opened doors, but you could be creative and get your foot in anywhere. I think it makes sense for like a bolt-on acquisition. If you really want to stand out and have those conversations and really kick through, I think it makes a lot of sense from an acquisition standpoint perspective.
Well, yeah, and you almost have to pair it with the Dream 100, like you're talking about, where you just pick out 100 ideal prospects and then just really go after those. Like generally, like we're doing the 12 touch. That is, I stole from Chet for the Ultimate Sales, where you just hit them, a couple times over a period of time and really get in front of them in different channels. So you feel like they feel like you're everywhere.
Absolutely. I've gone into meetings where, following Chet Holmes' Dream 100 strategy, I did, let's say, 3 or 4 consecutive mailings. And back then, when like the guy I'm thinking of was an accountant in New York City or in Queens, I was sending lumpy mail. And one week would be like a voodoo doll, like a mini voodoo doll. Next week would be like a packet of aspirin. Next week was a lobster. Next week was a mini dinosaur. And when I showed up to the meeting, he had all 4 of them sitting on his desk in a row, ready for the conversation. That was really weird, but it works. It works. If you get in somewhere, it's effective.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into that, because I think from, theoretically, like it makes sense, right? You're going to get their attention. And so, get the numbers right. But like, I think a lot of people, from not just from like the businesses doing, but people doing acquisitions too, trying to buy a business, like you got to spend all that money up front, right? And you're hoping that it works. Maybe talk a little bit about how you work through the numbers and maybe your experience of seeing it through. Like you just got to make the investment, and it usually pans out. Maybe not always, but like just knowing your numbers, how you can cover that and reduce some of that anxiety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, dude, I mean, it's if you don't like anxiety, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Number one.
That's true.
Well, you got to risk it to get the biscuit. That's part of it, man. It's like every day you wake up as an entrepreneur, and it's like, all right, what am I risking today? What's the big risk? What's the calculated risk? And when I send direct mail, for the most part, I know it's a calculated risk. I know if I mail a certain amount, I'm going to get a certain amount of responses, and it's just about sifting through them. I'm supremely confident in direct mail. I don't. I don't really look at that as a risk. I think of that as a cost of doing business and a cost of conversations. For acquisitions, I don't really run through the math on that because the deal sizes are so large that
Yeah.
I don't even bother.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. If I was running, I'm actually going to run the play right now for a $197 a month website. I'm going to test out like probably batches of 100 or batches of 200, and I'm going to see if I mail 100, can I get one of them to be a customer? Whether that be on a free trial, upfront payment, to some degree. What kind of velocity can I create around that?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to test it. There, I know my numbers. I want to be either month one break even or month 1.5 break even. And I just need to back into the number. And that's an example of me looking at the numbers. Anytime I run direct mail for myself for the agency, I look at month one. Can I get a return on month one, knowing that I'm paying out 3% Stripe processing fees and then I'm paying out 50% month one commissions to sales. So if I charge $750 month one, 3% is going out. I pay $375 to sales. Can I break even on the remaining portion? And that's how I think about it from a marketing agency perspective on direct mail. For a local home service business, it's going to be a little bit different. You have to have a really strong handle on your cost of good and your gross profit and really understand those numbers. Then also understand what's the goal here. Is it a single transaction? Is it a strategic alliance? Is it route density? Like, what's the reason you're trying to go after this customer? Am I willing to spend a little bit more because it adds that much more profit margin to the deal or to the cluster? So just think strategically as to why you're studying the direct mail and then rework the numbers based on that. Like you trying to fill density, those jobs are way more profitable than another job, 4 miles down the street, because then you've got gas, you've got burn labor, you've got all this extra stuff you've got to work through. So does that make sense on how I kind of think about it?
Yeah, so it all comes down to like an ROI, because I've asked you this before. Like, oh, what should my response rate? You'd be like, it doesn't matter. Like, all that matters is, do you get your month one ROI or whatever ROI you're going for?
Yep.
Like, those are just incidental of the ultimate goal, which I like that approach. It's just a matter of knowing each of those numbers and then having like a conservative conversion assumption, right? If I get this, I know I'll be paid for.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it's a hypothesis anyway. It's like, if I send this many out and I assume this conversion rate, this is what I need to break even. So like when I'm sending out, I'm like, I know right now I need 1 out of 300 to convert and I'll break even.
Got it.
Which is like, oh, all right, I'll take those odds. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I'll take those. I mean, that's where we're internally, we're running through all those calculations right now for the new lead gen strategy for the website side of it. We're like, okay, if I'm sending 500 of X per day, what percent's going to respond? How many of those leads are going to be crap because they're just pissed off and responding to just say
right.
Leave me alone. Then how many of them are real leads, and then of those real leads, how many can be sold into a month one profit versus a dollar trial versus this versus that. So yeah, it's all. I mean, that's business. It's all hypothesis. Like that's what we're all good at is putting the idea on paper or in your brain and then just testing it. When everyone else is sitting back at a job that is afraid to take that leap, we sprint towards that opportunity.
Very cool. My background isn't so much marketing, so I'm just feel like I'm learning more in this from you guys right now. I did want to touch on the niches though. So obviously you mentioned a lot about HVAC being a really great niche. There's a lot of subscription services with HVAC. You got duct cleanings, you got scheduled maintenance, plumbing as well. Electrical is kind of what we're diving into right now. What would you, in the niche and what you've kind of seen with your experience there, what have you done and what have you done with those sort of niches to generate like lead flow and customers?
Google ads and Facebook ads and local map SEO, and then also the local service ads are going to be like your primary drivers, I'd say. Also depends on if they're doing any commercial or if it's all residential. So that'd be one of my first questions is like, what's their book of business? Is it commercial or residential? If it's commercial, you can do a lot of interesting stuff. If it's residential, find out if it's new construction or if it's repair. Like, are the homeowners calling you or is it the builders calling you? And if it's the builders, do you consider that commercial or is that just a division within residential? So kind of work backwards. I need more context and then we can kind of assault towards a plan. It really just depends. We're looking at a friend of mine. We're looking at with a friend of mine for an acquisition, and something I tell him is we want something where we can advertise for, but also run the Dream 100 playbook at the same time to different markets. Like we're looking at a turf business, backyard turfs, putting greens, that kind of stuff. And for that, we can advertise for retail customers, and then we can B2B Dream 100 market for landscapers, pool builders, home builders, that kind of stuff to hit both sides of the market. So like you're not sitting back and waiting for things to happen. You can be proactive and attack the market at the same time. So I'd say yes, 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 and yes. It all just depends. I need more context is king. You need to understand more about what the play is with that given business, and then develop the strategy based on that.
Mm-hmm. So like step one, who are we going after? It sounds like is always. And then
Who's
do you
their
do this? Right. Do you do that where I've heard of some people do this, you may or may not. Do you envision a single person when you do that? No.
I don't build the avatar. I know people swear by it.
Some people do, yeah.
They swear by it. I spent the whole weekend watching how SaaS businesses scale their businesses through sales teams and what that looks like and what their metrics looks like. And for them, it's all avatar driven, but they're selling into like 50 niches within it if they're like an SMB SaaS. So it's a little bit different. I mean, you could. It depends. I know the avatar in a lot of niches, but for me as the agency owner, I know. But in terms of home, I know I don't do that because a lot of what we're doing is direct response to people that are actively seeking out the solution. So all we're doing is putting that solution in front of them automatically.
Gotcha. I mean, I've always done. I don't go all the way where they give them a name and they name their kids and all that stuff. But I do kind of have a picture of like, all right, this is kind of the type of person we're going after. It's like this segment of people. So maybe not one person, but like, this is kind of this group, what maybe some affinities they have.
Yep. As you're saying that, like on the agency side, I definitely know who our customers are. I know exactly they're the guys
Chuck with the truck.
Yeah. They're the solo operators in their van or their truck, working their tail off, missing phone calls, super unorganized. Just because they're going a million miles an hour and everything's written down on a notepad and picture their dashboard with lots of receipts and like an old license plate.
So you know your avatar.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I was thinking, when you said it originally, I was thinking more like who the home service business avatar is.
Oh,
like, we don't market to them, but for me, I know exactly who they are. We don't have like phone boards of their pictures in front of the sales. Like
some people take it. Yeah, they go crazy. They refer to them by name. Like, oh, well, Sarah wouldn't approve of this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's a great question, Jaron. And Jaron actually he doesn't do marketing, but he was a pretty high performance sales guy going door to door for the solar. So don't let him fool you. He knows how to market. It's just a different type of marketing.
Yeah, it's more in your face kind of marketing. Nothing behind the scenes,
It's super effective. The people that knock on door knocking are the ones that aren't doing it. And it's the ones that don't do it well. But I know a ton of organizations that I bought from a door knock pest control company just to watch the whole process.
I did too. Mm-hmm.
It was active. I know exactly.
That's what I did too. Yeah.
So I know it works. I know it works. And I know guys that have grown significant enterprises from that. And anytime you have any sort of outbound that can be controlled and scaled up, you've got something where marketing on the back end is just like a nice to have and an accelerant. So I'm a big fan. That would be an example of like those dual path businesses where you could have a canvassing door knocking team and advertising behind the scenes for solar leads as an example. That would be like a two front example. Doesn't necessarily have to be turf where it's B2B and then advertising for B2C, but just as long as there's multiple paths to grow, and then one of them being like define a system, perfect the system, and then scale it up. That's what I'm looking for in terms of businesses that I want to invest in, be a partner in, acquire, that kind of stuff.
That's cool. And then with my experience in kind of the door-to-door, it was really successful because people weren't necessarily, if you're Googling like solar companies near me, you're going to shop 10 different options. But, if we're interrupting your lunch and you weren't really thinking about it, but that you've just seen your power bill, which is, for a solar example, astronomically higher than it was this time last year. And then there's an option. So it's kind of cool. It's disrupting what you were doing or, your thought pattern to bring in an option where versus if you're going out and shopping for it, you're going to be looking at options and probably price shopping and bringing it down. So that's a pretty cool way to do it.
And how many doors would it take you to get an in-home?
Depending on, but probably around the 50 mark.
Oh, it
Right.
froze just on the
Oh
good
no.
stuff.
You'll never know.
Leaves me hanging. I love
Yeah.
it.
That's great.
It's awesome.
To finish out, because I know we're coming up to time here, and you got plenty to do with launching these websites. I figured we could talk maybe a little bit about where you see things going. I know you have looked into a lot about AI, and you have some reservations and some excitement about that. Talk to me a little bit about where you see that fitting in, or maybe even just where you see things like marketing going in general.
Yeah, on the AI side of things, I think a lot of people were concerned with AI taking blue collar jobs, taking warehouse jobs, taking assembly
Mm-hmm.
line jobs, and then when it really hit the market, it went white collar, like a what do they
Yeah,
call
I
it, bat out
know.
of hell, and
Right.
scared the crap out of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to disrupt a lot of different places and a lot of things, and being able to harness it and make the use of it is going to be is I think going to be the power for the next 5 or so years. I think we're
Mm-hmm.
still a little bit of ways off for a lot of it, but I think at some point we'll have AI being salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine having read every sales book and never forgotten a single line, a
Right.
single qualifying question, and a single objection handling approach. It's going to be incredible to see and watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think there will be. I would imagine there'll be pushback to some degree, and people are going to want to speak to humans. Um,
Yeah,
and
I think so. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm nervous about it. There's a lot of scary stuff coming down the pipe, but I'm also excited about it. I think quality of life could definitely improve for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about it. I think a lot of marketing will be put into black boxes, and our access to make changes is gonna go away. I think
Right.
we're seeing that on the Google Ad side of things. Um, and we're going to have to lean really heavily into the strategy thing, like why we pick what we pick, what avenue we're going down. So more of a
Interesting. Like
consultation group.
educational. Yeah.
Yeah, like true consultant on why we're picking what we're picking versus actually being the presser of the buttons behind the scenes.
And I agree. I mean, just the same way that tractors didn't get rid of farmers and chainsaws didn't get rid of lumberjacks, it becomes a tool to make you better. And sure, there's less of them, but
Yep.
then it creates just as many jobs, right? Like factories in the Industrial Revolution didn't get rid of jobs altogether; they just create new ones.
Yep. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Jaron,
Yeah,
just
I
as I
dropped
asked,
out
how
for a
many,
second. Sorry
if you
about
knocked
that.
100 doors, how many homes
Yeah,
are you getting into?
yeah,
You froze.
yeah. It's a secret. I
And
can't. I'm out.
He didn't want you to know.
So my stats were around 50 doors for a
Taking it
sale,
to his
50
grave.
to 60 doors for a sale, and that could vary. I could knock 10 doors and get 3 leads. I could knock 200 doors and get nothing. But I think when I finally worked it out, it was about that, a single sale.
okay, do you say 50 to get a single sale or 50 to get 2 sales?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's oddly enough that fits right into that 3% of a market's
Mm,
buying. That fits right into that window, which is a beautiful thing, and I think that's why door knocking is effective. People just don't want to hoof it and do the work, but I think that also speaks to why direct mail is a
mhm.
effective strategy as long as your numbers back out. But you nailed it. I don't know if you were if you were exceptional at the job or you were mid pack or where you kind of were in that, but it's nice to see that you were a high
Yeah.
end of it. What was the rest of
Well,
your team? What were their
I was one of
numbers?
the highest paid non-managers in the office, maybe the highest paid non-manager. It took me a while to get there though. Like I didn't start off $50 for a
Yep.
sale. I mean, it took me 3 months to get a sale, but then I was doing 10, 15 a month by the time I figured it out. The only reason I sort of got out was we had some
Nice.
legislation changes in the state, and it was a good model, but it was I refer to it as a treadmill. You got to keep running. For example, like me and my wife went to Europe and then took about a month off vacation. My pipeline had dried up, and I was like, "This isn't what I want to do long term." Albeit you could make really good
Yep.
money in a commission only space if you perform. It wasn't a long term solution, which hence got me looking for what was next. But yeah, it was definitely a really steep learning curve, but a very good learning curve. And I mean, it is in your face marketing, but it's very, very different to the kind of the marketing that you guys have been referring to and talking about over the last half an hour,
Mm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're condensing
So,
that whole cycle
very
down
cool.
into 30 minutes, right? Like a whole cycle, like we're talking
Yep.
about, is could be months or even a year, and you're condensing it down to like a half-hour spot. So it's the full cycle,
Yeah,
which is
and
impressive.
it
It's
it
not
really
easy
is
to
that
do.
that FaceTime and the first 7 seconds to make the first impression, you know. So it's
Yep.
a lot about tonality and where you're standing and how you're talking and what you're doing when, you know, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes of just talking to someone, you know.
Yeah, mostly
Absolutely.
tone.
Yeah, and it's testing different scripts and testing it and actually doing it is the biggest thing. It's like cold calling definitely doesn't work if you don't do it.
It's always the hardest
Definitely
part, getting out there and doing it, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like
So,
that Charlie Munger inverted thinking. It's like how to be unsuccessful, like do these things.
Yeah.
So how to be, you know, unsuccessful in cold calling. Don't make calls.
Yeah.
Don't test things out.
Drive to the neighborhood. Don't get out of your car. Stay on Instagram, you know.
Yeah. Well, the one that really sold me on cold calling for sure, because I did it early on in my career and I hated it. I mean, it was just brutal. I had no skill, no nuance, no nothing, no scripting. It was just like hit the phone. So I was like, what do I say? Didn't know that an objection was meant to be like me going around it. I thought that was like, okay, hang up.
All right, fine.
When that's when I started to really learn like the direct response side. I was like, all right, I gotta find a way to get into places I want to be without having to be the bull running through a door. But when HubSpot developed their entire outbound sales team, I was like, ain't that a son of a bitch? The largest inbound marketing software in the world that's meant to generate inbound leads has an outbound sales team. I was like, that's really interesting. And that's where I was like, all right, I gotta get rid of this self-limiting belief and just put my past experience doing it and getting my teeth kicked in. Let that be what it was. In a place that didn't have good systems, didn't have good scripting, and it just is what it is. That was that piece of meat getting thrown out there. But you know, going through and studying the craft and learning it all, it does work. It's been effective. I can look at our book of business and I can identify who came from cold calls. I can tell you who came from direct mail. I can tell you different alliances that we've created through direct mail, all different ways. So.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, I know you got plenty to do, so we'll cut it here. But again, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You know, your wealth of knowledge. I don't think I've ever come away from one of our conversations without learning something.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As my dad was, he used to always famously say that he was a wealth of useless information. So if I can follow in his footsteps, I am very proud of that.
You truly are the junior.
The B cut of encyclopedias, you know.
Yeah.
The B-roll.
Yeah, I love it. Cool, man.
Awesome.
Well, thanks
Ed.
for coming on,
Appreciate
and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Absolutely. All right. Take care, guys.